Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about Unit 1, Day 1 notes, which are talking about order of operations. So you have your notes in front of you. Remember, while you're following along, that if you're at home, you can pause this video and you can play back whatever sections you need to, so you make sure that you can get it, or pause it to make sure you copy down a section. So, order of operations, or PEMDAS, as you may have heard it called in the past, is the rules that we follow for math so that everywhere around the world when people are doing math problems, we'll do them in the same order. And this is the order that we're going to follow. So we've got our P, which stands for parentheses. So parentheses is what we're going to put in this first spot here. Now, this section, it doesn't only just stand for parentheses. What it stands for is or other grouping symbols. And you may be wondering what that means, and I'm going to tell you in just a second. So this could be your parentheses, it could be your brackets. You could have the square root symbol, which we'll be talking about at some point during the school year. That is also a grouping symbol, or also when you have a fraction. A fraction bar, that is also going to count as a grouping system. Whatever's on the top needs to be grouped, and whatever's on the bottom needs to be grouped and simplified before you can do anything else with that fraction, since we know that fractions also represent division. So that's the P. The E is exponents. So just a reminder of what an exponent is. We'll be doing a whole unit on this later on in the year, but this is just a notification of how many times to multiply a number by itself. So we'll be doing a lot more with exponents, but you've seen them. They are those little numbers. So for example, when you have something like this, it is 5 to the exponent of 2. That is going to be the same thing as, like we just said, how many times you need to multiply something times itself. So we're going to do 5 times itself for a total of 2 times. And we know that 5 times 5 is 25. So that's how we're going to be simplifying our exponents. We're going to be using the little power, whatever that may be. You could even have something like 4 to the third power. So if the exponent is to the third, what we're going to do is multiply 4 times itself 3 times. And you would use a calculator for this, but 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. So that is the E in PEMDAS. The next one you'll notice is written together. We have M and D written next to each other with an arrow. So when we do these, we need to do them from left to right. So this can be, it's multiplication, or division. And that or is really important here. You're doing one or the other, and you read the problem. From left to right, just like you read a book. And you're going to do the multiplication and division in order based on which way you come across them. So when we're looking at multiplication, or when you are multiplying, you may come across a bunch of different symbols. So we may sometimes use an X. We'll use that in our scientific notation. Sometimes we'll use a dot. Sometimes things written next to each other in parentheses, that can be multiplication. You can put letters in here if that makes it easier, and some numbers. And sometimes you can just have something right next to each other, like XY or 3X. Those are also considered all versions of multiplication. Some symbols we'll use for division. You'll see, obviously, the division symbol. Sometimes you will see them obviously written as fractions, like we talked about before. Those are really the only two symbols that we use. Some people will use the slash, but we're not going to use that when we're writing out math. We would use the division symbol, or you use your fraction bar. And the last step of PEMDAS here is the A and the S, which is either addition or subtraction. And again, that or is very important. You can see here there's also an arrow, which means we're going to follow the same rule. So we can write the same thing here. So you read the problem from left to right and do. Now we have the AS, put some slashes in there, in order. So obviously we have one symbol for each of these. We've got our addition is our plus sign and subtraction is our negative or minus sign. So here's an example. You could have something like 7 minus 4 plus 5. Here you would do subtraction first. Or if you had an example that was like 3 plus 8 minus 11, that would obviously be addition first. So in these cases, since we have both, we have to again move from left to right in order to figure out which one we're going to do first. So you've probably heard people refer to PEMDAS as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. If that helps you remember what order to put them in, that's a great way to do that, or you can come up with your own way to remember. So let's look at some examples and kind of what work will be expected when you're doing these types of problems. So in your notes, we've got 6 examples that we're going to go through. So in this first one, we have a lot of things going on. Let's identify what pieces we have. We have parentheses that we're going to have to deal with. We've got multiplication. If the 7's on the outside, it's going to multiply inside. We've got addition happening with our plus sign. We've got more multiplication, and we've got an exponent. So we need to do these in order. So first thing is parentheses. So we're going to combine what is inside the parentheses here. So I'm going to do steps here in different colors so that we can kind of keep track of our work. So step 1 is we are going to put, sorry, my cat is walking. Get out of here. I'm trying to record a video. So we've got 7, and inside the parentheses, we are going to actually do 4 minus 1, which would give us 3. So that's our first step there. We are then going to leave everything else exactly the same, so I'm going to leave it in black ink still so that we can see. So the only thing we change there is that first step, which is the 4 minus 1 inside the parentheses. What we're going to do next, according to our PEMDAS, which you can even kind of see through the sheet, is we did a parentheses, we're going to do exponents next. So we've got this exponent of 3 squared, and we talked about how exponents mean that's how many times you multiply something by itself. So in this case, we're going to do 3 times itself 2 times. So we have, nothing's changed here. We've got 7, now parentheses 3, plus 7 times, and what's going to change is 3 squared is the same thing as 3 times 3, or 9. So next we are going to have to figure out what we should do. So we've done our parentheses, we've done our exponents, and now we're going to need to do multiplication or division. We do not have any division here, so what we're going to do is just our multiplication. So we're going to multiply this part here. 7 times 3 gives us 21. And we are then going to multiply this second part. 7 times 9 would give us 63. So we've done parentheses, we did exponents, we just did 2 different multiplications, and now our last step, we are going to do our addition. We don't have any subtraction, so we don't have to worry about which one to do first. We are just going to simply add together 21 and 63 to get our final answer of 84. So that is our addition. So we did, in this step here, we did the P, the parentheses, then the exponents. We did some multiplication to our next step in our addition to get our final answer there. And I always box my answers here with a purple marker. Why, you ask? I do not know. Okay, let's do another example. I'm not going to use as much color on this one so we can work through it a little bit faster. But remember, you can pause the video when you're working through it to work at a speed that's more comfortable for you. So looking through, let's identify what we have. We have subtraction, multiplication, addition, and division. So these are only working with the last four pieces of PEMDAS. We don't have any parentheses or exponents. So we know that when we get to multiplication and division, we have to do those problems from left to right. So let's go through and figure out what we're going to do first. The first thing we come across is multiplication. So we're going to do that first. We have 18 minus 2 times 3 gives us 6. So all I changed was that first thing there, that first multiplication. Now in my next step, I'm going to do my division. So everything else is going to stay the same. And we have 6 divided by 3. That would give us 2. Now everything is either addition or subtraction, which means we've completed the multiplication and division step. So we're going to do the same thing. From left to right, we have to figure out our subtraction or addition, which one comes first. In this case, subtraction comes first. We're going to do 18 minus 2. That would be 12 plus 2. And our last step is to do that addition. That would give us 14. The final answer here is 14. All right, moving on to example number 3. We've got subtraction, division, parentheses, multiplication, and addition. So let's start with those parentheses. We are going to leave everything else by itself. But inside the parentheses, we have 8 minus 3. That would give us 5. And everything else will stay the same. So we got rid of our parentheses. We don't have any exponents. So we're going to move on to multiplication and division. We've got division, then multiplication. So we're going to do them in that order. So we have to do 5 divided by 5. That gives us 1. And now we'll do our multiplication. So we have 9 minus 2 plus 6, because negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. And now we're at our point where we're doing addition and subtraction, whichever one comes first from left to right. So that's our subtraction. This becomes 7 plus 6, which we can add together to give us 13 in our final answer. So you can see I am showing every single step of my work, and that is expected of you when you're doing your homework too, because I need to be able to follow your thought process. Unfortunately, I'm not a mind reader, and I can't read your mind. If you just went from here to here, I have no idea how you got there, and I need to have a little bit of insight. Example number 4. It's asking us to decide, is it 9 or 1? Maybe you've seen on the internet people arguing about what the answers are to questions, because if you follow the order of operations in PEMDAS, you'll get the right answer. If you don't and you do the problem a different way, you'll get a different answer. And that's why we all follow PEMDAS, so we all get the same answers. So we've got division, multiplication, and parentheses. Let's start with those parentheses. So if we do 1 plus 2, that would give us 3. We can use parentheses here to represent the multiplication. I could have put a multiplication symbol here, whatever you prefer. We are now going to do our multiplication and division from left to right. So we're going to start by doing 6 divided by 2, because that's on the left. That gives us 3 times 3. Our last step is multiplication, which is 9. So the correct answer here is 9. If we had done it incorrectly, we would have gotten 1. All right, let's finish up these last 2 examples here for your notes. So we've got multiplication, parentheses, subtraction, more parentheses, and division happening. So let's do that. Let's start with these first set of parentheses. 4 plus 6 gives us 10. And here we can do parentheses all in the same step if we want. 9 minus 4 gives us 5. Now we've got multiplication, subtraction, and division. So let's do our multiplication and division from left to right. So we're going to start here by doing 5 times 10. And we have 5 divided by 5 gives us 1. Our simple subtraction step gives us 49 for our final answer. All right, one last problem. We've got exponents, multiplication, subtraction, addition, and division. So we're going to do those in PEMDAS order. No parentheses, so we can move right on to our exponents. 2 to the 3rd power is 2 times 2 times 2. So that gives us 8 times 10 minus 3 plus 9 divided by 3. We now need to do multiplication and division. So we'll start with our multiplication. That gives us 80 minus 3 plus, and if you want to do division in the same step, that would give us 3. Now we have to do 80 minus 3 would be 77.